And then some tips I came up with very quickly. I think there was maybe 11 or something. I will go through as many as I have time for. First one, useful shortcuts. Most of these are for scripting. So Control R is to same as this one here, run. Very useful to run some single lines, for example. You don't have to go here or right click and try to find wherever it is. Very quickly to select here from keyboard shortcuts. You don't have to move your mouse or anything. Very useful when scripting. Control-Shift-L opens your log. Also helpful to know. You can find it from view menu, or you might have it open and find it from here. Control-M does reformat your script. So if you have some mess and you don't always want to fix whole script. So I can now select this one section, Control-M, and it will fix this one part. Can be helpful. Sometimes the formatting that JMP does can be a bit messy. So that's why I like this shortcut to modify highlighted part of script. Control-T, new script window. Control-N, new JMP window. These are helpful to create some, for example, debugging tables or some test tables. Add some columns, some values, then copy table script, paste here. Now you have a very simple test table to utilize. And then control space, list of commands in scripting window. So let's say names default, then I press control space and it will fill it. And in some cases, if there are multiple options, and now it doesn't because then it will provide other options for me. So now I could select it from here, or I can, if I continue writing, if I manage to write correctly, maybe it will do what I want. But you can then browse it from here, for example. Makes it much faster to write. And for example, new window is one. This is as far as I write it. Then I control space. Alt and double click, open scripting index for an object. So in this case, for example, to open, I hold Alt and double click, and it will open usually correct place from scripting index. One annoying thing with this is that now these won't be updated. So quite often, let's see if I could associative array works for example. I would like to see everything I can do with associative array from here, but this won't update. So now I will have to write this again from here, and then I can click and find. This can be a bit annoying, but for quickly accessing some examples, still helpful. And sometimes you might find extra stuff from here. Okay, those are basically those scripting things. Then you have these general JMP shortcuts. Control-L, it does relaunch the recall the last platform. So let's see if I open a table. Let's do distribution. And then Control-L should open this same platform for me. Sometimes helpful, a bit annoying shortcut because you basically need two hands for this. And Control-K, open preferences, can be helpful sometimes for scripting or demonstrating someone something. Next one, finding JMP credit scripts. Usually you have three locations. You have the red triangle menu, save script, and from here, most generally I use the clipboard, and then I press Control-T, Control-V, and now I have my script here. You have table scripts, and of course, enhanced log. Generally, this is built when you close the platform, and you can get the script from here or from here, if I remember correctly. Save script to clipboard, for example. And then for this table scripting, one example, let's create a distribution, is that for how to access this, you can make this into a data table, and you will get a table script for it. One place to find this. Now you have basically full script which is even pretty nice. It has names default to here and references and so on. Pretty robust script. Only thing it's basically missing is my reference here. It will also record it here. And in this case, it will use local scope. Those are the basic places to find the scripts. You of course have then the option of using get script. Then a bit more. These are not in any specific order, these tips here. Reordering lists, or in this case, maybe reordering associative array. So this can be confusing, so you have to maybe try this a little bit. We have associative array here. And because it's an associative array, it will reorder out in alphabetical order, basically. So our A8 third is now first one, fourth, second, and so on. We update some values. So now we have, doesn't really matter in that much. They're just for demonstration that something has changed. So this is our current associative array. If we want to have our, if we want to have these in order, you can use ranking as an example. So we have our order list, and in this case we had this because we built our associative array from initial lists. User interface is one place where something like this could happen. Data table columns in some cases. We can use the order from this and order our alphabetically ordered list with this ranking. That's what this is basically doing. So this will get us ranking for this. And now this will be in the original order. This is not that interesting because we have it here. It's more. This is the more interesting part, is that we can order our values also. This does have uses in. I have used this in user interfaces and sometimes when reordering columns. Exactly this one. But then a bit more, maybe a real example. We have a very simple table, and then we calculate PPK for all of these columns. And we want to reorder our columns here by the PPK value. One thing to note is that if you start reordering these, the order can get messy and it might not be correct what you get from here. But I'm not touching these, so it should not be a problem. So I first collect the column values into my cols variable, then to PPKs to PPKs. Now we should have both of those. Then I rank by these PPK values. And this is depending on the order you want. In this case, we want to have highest on the top, so we had to reverse the order. And this way we can use these orders for our columns and get them. And not reverse, so we can reverse it. And then we can see, let's see where this fits. So now they will be in this order, and then NPN, PNP2 is the highest, NPN is the second, and so on. So it worked. There is easier method than using this associative array mess. And you can basically always use it. You can use jump tables. Nothing prevents you from using jump table. You can create a jump table from those list and sort table. In this case, I create a jump table from the results. I sort the table from the with the PPK values. So now they are sorted by that. Then I get the values because these are now unique. I get the values, or basically the order from the column here. And now I can use this same move selected columns if I can find the demo table. I move them here. There are some jump versions where this won't work. They did break it, but they fixed it. Maybe 17.2, I'm not sure if it worked, but at least in 18 it does work. Next one, testing expressions. So you have built great formula. Let's say you're attempting to build a great formula. In this case, it's very simple. So we want to multiply value 1 with value 2. And because it's a formula, we have to use expressions. Otherwise, we will end up with val1 times val2. You can test what this will be before you even run it. So you can select everything else, but not the eval, run this, and now you will see the expression here. This is what JMP will evaluate and do. So you can take this, you can basically run it from here, but you can move it here and run it, and it will execute it. Can makes debugging expressions much easier. This is a very simple example, but you can have a long expressions, or you are not sure what's going on with your weird eval expressions and so on. Then you can try with this, for example. Or you can leave it basically the eval out and then evaluate it later. Next one, utilizing row, and what is this weird row? This is basically the default row or current row in your JMP table. If I want to check what is the value of this will return a missing. And the reason is that my current row is 0. This is the default current row in JMP. You can manipulate it by setting it a value. So now it's 1. And now I can use this to run the calculation here on these two values. This can be very helpful when debugging column. You have complicated formula, and you are trying to debug it with in formula editor. It can be very difficult, but you can just take the formula out of formula editor, place it in JMP script window, and then use this row to check out what the row values, what you think they should be and what they really are. You can also use this referencing by the row number, but for comparison, you can have this, and I can directly copy paste this to my formula, and it will work. Or if I use this syntax here, it won't. It might work, but it will return only the values from the first row. So this is much easier if you can just do this. Getting unique values, depending from where you are getting these different methods. I demonstrate some basic options here. So we have big class and a list. We want to get the unique values from this list and then from the age column. Associative array, it doesn't support floats. It does sort the values. If you have lots of values, it can get slow, but it's very simple. From list, you can set the list into associative array and get the keys. Now you have the unique values. You can use the same thing on a column. Unique values from this column. Summarize faster. It will convert numbers to strings, annoying thing usually, and it needs a table. Very simple to create a table for this, of course, but in this case, I don't do it, so I will just demonstrate what it does. But note that these are now strings. This can sometimes mess up a lot of things. So that's something to note. And then this is it's very simple thing, then I use this. Otherwise, I tend to use summary. It's very fast. You can force this to remember the order by basically creating a example, adding row transfer column, for example, and then you can take the minimum row. So you can keep the original order with summary. It requires extra scripting, but you can do it if you want to. So create a summary from my column, then take the value from a first column. This is a private column table, so it won't be visible here at all. And now I have my values here. This is my preferred method, and I have written my own helper functions which do utilize this. Generally very fast platform summary tables. This very special thing, quoting quotes, community discussion about this. So sometimes in run program, you want to have extra quotes, and it can be a bit annoying how to place them there properly. This is one way of doing it. So you escape the escaped quote basically. This is just something to know, and there is some discussion about it. So when you face this, go and see this. I have used this with run program. Sometimes you can get by using singular quotes, but sometimes not. So this is good to remember that you might have to do something a bit weird like this. Other escaping thing, escaping square brackets in this case in regex. So we have our string. From this string, we want to have this. This is very simplified example. That's why it's we want to have this whole thing. We want to extract this value from here, the whole thing. If we just input this part here to regex as a pattern, it will now return the first value. And the reason is that because it will now consider these as the regex parameters, which are now any of these characters. You could add their plus or something. But some cases you want to escape these. In regex, you can escape them with slash. But now you see what happens with jump when I add the slash here on the first bracket. It thinks that everything after that one is now a string. So we will first have to escape the slash before. So what we do here is we basically create a slash. I'm not sure how I can even run. I would have to add quotes here. But we are adding one extra escape here. And now we can make the jump and regex understand what we really want to do. And this is because of this, how this basically works, this syntax. So we are avoiding this by adding something like this here. Both of these are kind of escaping strings stuff. Then avoiding temporary files. In this case, we have very simple CSV file. Let's consider that we have gotten this from a server, for example. We use HTTP request to get this value. So now we have it in our table, and we want to use jumps open because it's very simple to turn this into data table with jumps open. You could save this table as a temp file and then open the temp file, but you don't have to do it. You can use blob. So turn this into a blob using char to blob, and then tell jump that it's text in open. And now it is able to open the file. This is very helpful with JSONs, for example, in some cases. And where I have used this most is that I have messy CSV files or text files I have to fix. I load it as a text in jump, then I clean it up, and then I can use this method to open it in a clean format. I don't have to try to build the table myself. After I have done my cleanup, I will just let jump take care of the opening. And I don't have to do temporary files if I use this char to blob. Then format pattern and a little bit on date formats. Best way, in my opinion, to learn these or find how they are done is to open any column, go to format pattern, set format pattern, and here you have these options. This is the best way, in my opinion, to find this. You have some built-ins. Some of these are very good. For example, for time, these are great. But this is the best way to learn how they look like, what options you even have or you can use. And then some robust options. So in this case, we have a date. Luckily, it's a clean date, not a messy one. Sometimes you have messy ones, but this can also manage with some a bit messier ones. In my opinion, format pattern is only way in jump to manage dates, timestamps properly. If you try to write something here, it depends on the user preferences, a laptop stuff, and it's a nightmare. Even if you create a table, change a format, it can mess up with the other people. If I, for example, okay, now I have clean. I used to have very horrible formats here. So if I now save it in this format, apply, save, copy this script from here, give this to someone who doesn't have this format. This script will, I think these will be missing values, so cause an error because jump doesn't have this format. If I use format pattern, that's not a problem. It can manage it. So using format patterns, these are now in scripting side, not as column properties. If we have a string in format, we can go to date numbers. If we have a number, we can go to string. So now we get a string, and then a little bit of formatting. And why this is, we can see it from here. This is totally valid number in JMP. You can write the dates in this format and it will be now as seconds. So this is totally valid value. I can add values to this. If I want to see what this is in JMP's date number, so seconds since 1st of January 1904, you can add a 0 to it. And then you will get this JMP's date number value. Can be helpful for sometimes trying to figure out differences or something. And if you want to go back to this type of format, as date is very simple one to do it. And when you are dealing with dates, times, in my opinion, always try to keep them in this format. They are this format anyway, if you have a table, but these are now the seconds. They're just cleaning, making them look clean when you are modifying the format. But if you start manipulating this, trying to remove seconds, then you might need them later. You won't get them back. They are gone at that point. If you have this, you can just change the format and everything is fine, basically. And if you have a table with dates, try to get them into these formats. Of course, you might have a date where you don't have seconds here at all, but that's fine. Then it's midnight. But try to turn them into this format first. Much easier to handle in JMP, and JMP can do a lot of things with them. A few more. Let's see. Show, write, print. I will go through this very fast. Print. This will always print on new line, and it will escape your strings. So you will get these. Even if you think that you shouldn't have these, they are there in log if you use print. Write does not print on new line, does not add anything extra, and it will not keep these. Write is pretty nice for logging, for example. You can write something like this. You don't have to start concatenating anything. You can just use comma here and create something like this very easily. Show, nice for debugging because you will get the parameter or variable name. And you can have multiple ones. This does add the quotes, just a note. Let's see, I have a few more. Okay, let's go this one first, because this is a very quick one. Sometimes you want to extract something from your expressions. I have a very nice expression here. I want to get these values from here. JMP does have extract expression you can use. So scripting it does have some examples. There are community discussion about this. I can use this. I will get now this part from here. And then I can use arg to get the value from this expression. Now I have the value. You can, of course, use strings if you really want to. I would advise against. Now it's a string. You have to start dealing with this mess of converting this and so on. Final thing is basically creating a column without formula. You can use transfer columns sometimes, but there are basic method, create a new column, run formulas, and delete the formula. I would say always add this because the formula might not be ready, and I'm not sure what JMP will do in that case if you try to delete. Most likely you will have missing values. You can pre-create the column and then use for each row. Valid option. If I remember correct, this is slower than this one. This is pretty fast. And then in JMP, I think this is in JMP 18. Yeah. So you can see the version from here. Apply formula. You can use apply formula with to this specific column and then create some static. Like I mentioned here, syntax is poop. This doesn't return anything. Sometimes this is helpful, but I don't like using this. But this is maybe the way forward. I'm not sure. I tend to use this annoying thing to write. But one nice thing with this apply formula, it does apply to for each row also, is that this can be used in place. So I can replace these values in place with a formula. You can do these from a right-click formula. From here, you have these options, and JMP will write a script for it. I can run these in place, and it will then update these values. We had, and we still have this set each value, but be careful, JMP might any day remove it or change the functionality, because the purpose of this is to set the same value for each of the rows. I did use this. This is very clean, simple format, but still there is a wishlist item that makes this basic functionality, but it's not there yet. Then a function name is most likely, a message name is incorrect, but still this would be the most clean option. I would say most of the time use this, and then if you can figure out how to utilize apply formula, it's also a fine option. Okay, those were my tips for this time.